Hi, this is Dr. Sharyl Truty, and we're here today with our health lunchtime noon chat with one of my favorite people, Carol Miller. How you doing, Carol?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you?
Okay, great. Carol is a personal coach and has a website which at ccmiller.com, correct?
Positive focus, yeah.
Correct, Carol?
Yeah, it's my personal coaching one's carolccmiller.com, and then the nonprofit is positive-focus.com.
Right, and Carol is also with me on the board of a fantastic charity called Positive Focus. We have a great presence on Facebook, but also plenty of other social media platforms, and we have a website as well, where we really try to bring positivity to the community in general. And, we look at the community as not only local, but national and global as well.
Exactly.
So you've got some things coming up too on your agenda calendar as well for Positive Focus.
Yes, I do. And in 50 days from today is our global event, which is Global Free Hugs. So I am very grateful for that event that's been going on for 11 years, since we're talking about gratitude today. Free hugs and hugging and connection is one thing that I'm incredibly grateful for. So,
yeah. This is sort of a little bit of a rescheduled podcast from around Thanksgiving time. But I think gratitude keeps popping up more and more, and how gratitude can sort of help, in general, people with their health and with their mood. And, I think we've always just thought of gratitude as a value, but not necessarily as something that, can actually, help us live healthier lives.
yeah, I think it's even more important to talk about gratitude away from, it was scheduled for around the Thanksgiving holiday last year, because people are focusing on it then. It's the holiday time. We tend to be in better moods, and we're in a more giving, grateful space because of the holidays, although holidays can be stressful too. But it truly is a state of mind, is what gratitude is. And the more you focus on what you're grateful for and what you appreciate, you're going to see more examples of it. If you focus on what you don't like in your life and what you're not grateful for, you'll see examples of that too. So it's where you want to place your focus.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, like you said, at this time of year, I mean, we get busy with all of the different, things that we're involved in, with all the different projects. It's springtime, as we're heading into spring, where we're kind of a little more in the middle of it, where you're at probably just starting out there in Chicago. But we get really busy, with the things that we do, and we forget, about gratitude and how that can be helpful. So, from your perspective, how do you talk to people about trying to keep gratitude at the forefront for them?
I think that's a great question, especially when you're just talking about weather. You being in Florida, where you don't deal with it as much as us Midwesterners who are still dealing with winter, even though spring is on the way. It's amazing to me how many people give their power over to something they have no control over. They have control of moving away from snow if they don't like snow, but they don't have control over Mother Nature's snowing or cold, rainy days. So it really is about focusing on what you are grateful for. I was just telling Darren before we started, it's a thunderstorm here, which I actually like, but that's a sign of spring to me. So again, it goes back to, I can't stop what's going on, but I can change my attitude towards whatever's going on. Whether it's something I like or something I don't like, I'm still in control of how I perceive what's going on. So gratitude is one of those things for me. of focusing on when I get into that space of I know I'm paying attention to, or I'm complaining about, or blaming or shaming something I don't like. I immediately step into, what do I like about this person? What do I like about this experience? What am I grateful for in the person who right now might be driving me crazy, but if they're in my life, they're in my life for a reason. And most likely, most of the reasons are good ones.
Yes, yes. And that's true. I mean, trying to, turn, things around and really look at things from a different perspective, makes, a whole lot of difference. In psychology, there's definitely, a lot of cornerstone of feeling better and helping people move through different stages is, trying to look at things, from a different perspective. And if we can change our thoughts, a lot of times we can change our mood. And that's sort of the cornerstone of cognitive, behavioral therapy, which is, often a key thing for feeling better. And, we know that if we can feel better, that's just better for our bodies, and that's better for us physically. You and I have often talked about stress, and, stress definitely drags us all, when it becomes an overwhelming stress.
Right.
We've talked about good stress, but when things become overwhelming, that's when, we feel it in our bodies. And, the challenge is, how do you not let these things, become overwhelming? Because if they're not, then you're able to, feel better, and you're able to, physically have, maybe less wear and tear on the body, because our brains really are keyed into, if have sustained amounts of stress,
Right.
beginning to have problems with that.
Well, it was just making me think of how they say that there's functioning alcoholics in the world. There are functioning stress people in the world. And it really is when it's the overwhelmment that drags you down and you can't function as well because you're so overwhelmed. But it goes back to, again, focusing and being aware of how you feel. When you feel the stress coming on, or where you're feeling overwhelmed, take some breaks, like take some deep breaths, because usually when we're in that space of stress or fear or anything that doesn't feel good, we're usually shallow breathing. So we're not even giving our brains or our heart the oxygen it needs to get out of that space. We're closing ourselves down rather than expanding ourselves. And then I go back into appreciation and gratitude. What in this situation right now am I grateful for? What do I appreciate about this situation? And there's some occasions that I don't find anything in that moment, but I do. Then I go into, these moments don't happen very often for me. So it's kind of a reminder about how easy other people are in my life, or other experiences are in my life. So then I'm grateful for it that way. And it's just small steps out of it. I think sometimes we're in such an instantaneous society, which I'm one of those. I want a quick fix like anybody does. But it's practice. The more you practice gratitude, the more you practice on focusing on what you want, you're going to see step by step that it's a lot easier each time to get out of that space of feeling overwhelmed. I don't know that you'll ever completely get out of it. I think some people absolutely can. The Dalai Lamas of the world and people of that level caliber probably don't have a stressful thought ever. But for the most of us, we're going to have stress in our lives, and we're going to have fear thoughts in our lives. What do we do with them, and how do we move forward? And one of them is gratitude and appreciation for me.
Yeah, and as we've talked about, we are equipped to handle stress in short, bursts. It's just when we feel it coming at all angles, and we feel it coming, for a long period of time, that it begins to wear on us. I mean, plenty of us, after we've had a vacation, can come, back to, whatever the situation is. And it really doesn't bother us. It takes maybe a while before, that
Right.
same situation that might have bothered us, before we took vacation, may not bother us, afterwards. And gratitude is just great because it is something simple. It is something easy for people to be able to do, like you
Yeah.
said, throughout the day, within a moment. Sure, if you're in the middle of something very highly emotionally charged, it's hard to like stop and then, all of a sudden try to think of something grateful. But surprisingly, just the fact that you stop and take a breath, like you said, sometimes that's enough to just help you shift out of things.
Not only that, but when you're in that moment of where it's escalated to the blowing part, if you've been practicing gratitude daily when you're just at a normal space, you're not going to get to that overwhelmment as much anyway, because you're already set up for gratitude. So
Right.
you'll probably still experience it. And I was just thinking, as you were talking about it, we can be overwhelmed and stressed out on things that are going well in our lives too. Like sometimes it's like you still just don't have enough time in the day to get all the good stuff done either. So it's
Right.
not even necessarily about negative stress. It's just about being overwhelmed. But when you practice gratitude, start your mornings thinking before you get out of bed what you're grateful for about maybe the day before, what you're excited about coming up for this day. I say thank you a lot during the day, just like I really do love thunderstorms, so I'm quite excited right now that there's a thunderstorm in Chicago right now. But it's
Yeah.
just about giving your thanks and gratitude for common things. And I say it often to my clients that some things to go back to be grateful for are things we take for granted. I've had family members, and I'm sure you've had patients who needed oxygen machines to breathe. The vast majority of us don't even have to think about breathing. It just happens. Our hearts just beat without us thinking about it. So we kind of start taking those for granted, but go back to being grateful that you're breathing easily. You're grateful that your heart's beating without you thinking about it. Go back to those basics of things that we don't even think about because we don't have to think about them.
Yeah, and I think that that's, a good practice is, we've talked about, in the moment, stepping back and, trying
Yeah.
to focus on something that's grateful. But like you said, another practice is to, surprise yourself by gratitude. Maybe every time you get in the car or, every time you, like you said, you wake up in the morning, think of two things that maybe you realize you take for granted, and to just take a moment and be grateful for them, like you said, a lot of times we cue into, very easily things that we're fearful of, but, things that we're grateful for, we just somehow, it's just,
Yeah.
and that's that gratitude leads to joy. It's a joy in the simple things.
Right.
And realizing that there is a lot of just really great things. So that's another really great practice. Is to just surprise yourself with the simple things that we have that we take for granted.
And again, the more that you do that, the less you're going to get into those states of overwhelmment because you're living in a space of gratitude. It's still probably going to happen. We all have experiences, and I'm guessing most of us have people in our lives that know how to push that button to send us over the edge. But if you know you're going to be dealing with that person, whether it's a meeting, a phone call, or a get together, before you get together with them, start thinking about what you're grateful for them and what you appreciate about them. And you're going to even change the energy just in that because you're focused on what you like rather than what you don't like. And it's really easy to focus on what you don't like when it's right in front of you. When one of your patients come in and they're really sick and feel awful, it's pretty hard to come in and say, I feel fabulous today. But they still have the ability to think about what they're appreciative about that right now they're still here is one of them, but that they, that they can focus on the fact that I get sick for 3 days out of a year. So the majority of the time I do feel good. Right now is a time for me to start taking care of myself and feeling better. But it really, every opportunity you have to go into gratitude, even the hard ones.
Yeah. And then, I like the idea of a gratitude journal,
Mm-hmm.
some people talk about doing that at night before going to bed, as another, place to practice gratitude, just, kind of, journaling, journaling itself is always, good, but, certainly a positive journal is going to help. And, it's great to be able to go back and, read that journal and sort
Yeah,
of almost
absolutely.
have, a running record of a lot of the positive things that have happened to you over the past several months, because it's easy, our memories seem to stick on some of the negatives.
Right. And I think it's important to realize that being grateful and appreciative does not mean stuffing the negative things that are going on and pretending that they don't exist. It's about
Right.
bringing some kindness into that situation, because when we stuff something, it usually comes back up in another day, another form. So even if you're going through a hard time, journaling that sad, scary experience gets it out of your body, and then maybe you shred it so you don't keep it forever, but it's still something that's helpful to get out. But the gratitude journal, and I think it's a great way to close out your day, because a lot of times we go to bed where we're not even thinking about it, and perhaps we just watch the news, which doesn't have a lot of positive stories on it. So we're taking that anxiety, that stress into our supposed restful sleep. How would it be if you took what you're grateful for and what you're excited about and what you appreciate in your life into your restful sleep? I suspect, especially if you practice it, you're going to wake up a lot calmer each day because of that.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people, in my practice who, have struggle with sleep. I have a lot of people who say they just can't get their brain to,
Yeah.
calm down and quiet down, before sleep. And, a prelude to sort of, trying to, do a breathing exercise or surrendering to sleep. It's great to just, in a sense, I mean, I don't like to use this term, but distract your mind, because you're really just trying to distract it from, this sort of, if you're having thoughts that are, worrisome or concerning, a lot of that, we've talked about how it's more emotional and it's more just sort of a brain repetitive
Yeah.
pattern than it is necessarily a reality. And so, shifting it into the gratitude kind of helps us to take, that step back.
Well, and I think again, it could be hard to go to sleep because your mind's active on something you're excited coming up to. So it doesn't
Right.
even necessarily need to be worrisome thoughts. But I'm a big believer in affirmations. So some of them are, I always get a good night's sleep, because we focus on what we don't do. I don't know how many, and I do it because I've been challenged with sleep many times in my life, and I will tell you, I never get a good night's sleep. I'm like, how is that helping me get a good night's sleep by focusing on the fact I do not get a good night's sleep? So it
Right.
really is where you place your focus, you're going to get examples of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think, people tend to, a topic like this might seem a little Pollyanna. It might seem like, okay, well, yeah, you're just going to try to wish everything away with gratitude. And that's not really true. It's really just trying to say, okay, our bodies and our brains are just cued on problem solving for survival. And, if we practice, some other habits of, you know, um, of sort of building the muscle, we work out to get stronger, for our backs, or for our heart, really,
Yeah.
doing something like this is just, adding something to your workout routine to just make your mind, stronger, so that you can get more of a sense of of calm and enjoyment out of your life.
Yeah, I think I always call it exercising your positivity muscles. And it
Yeah,
requires some truth to it as well. Like if
yeah,
somebody came to you and had a terminal diagnosis given to them, I don't expect them to be saying, I'm so grateful for that diagnosis. I mean,
right,
that would be Pollyanna, but to feel what you need to feel, not to stuff it and to go through it, but to bring a little compassion and kindness and gratitude to whatever you're going through. That's what one of the big things I do with positive focus. I think people feel like if you're positive, you're living in a false reality. And so I say I'm here to heighten celebration and lessen sorrows. So gratitude's going to heighten the good times you're going through in your life, and it's also going to lessen the hard times in your life. It may not make them go away, but it's going to make them easier to get through when you focus on what you're grateful for.
yes. I absolutely agree, and I think we've I think from as a physician, we've kind of gone through a revolution in realizing that what's good for our health, first has been exercise, and then the realization how the importance of diet, and how much that plays a role. But I think we're just starting to emerge and understanding that there are a lot of tools out there that can help us, with our minds and our focus that will make us healthier, and live happier, no matter what's going on. And certainly there are some people dealing with some really significant,
Yeah.
struggles that are very, very difficult. Loss of children, loss of close family members to various types of illnesses, shootings, trauma. Yes, there's a lot of people
Mhm.
dealing with that, but in that grief, there are also moments of of things around you that are very special and that are good,
And even in those experiences, you're still going to find people who are hardwired to find the gratitude in it. I do not think hardwired gratitude is the norm for most of us. I think most of us are in that survival mode, and that's just the way our brains have been wired. But there are some people that can go through some really tragic experiences and find gratitude immediately in it and work from that space. So it does not mean that it wasn't tragic, but it does mean that they're able to find something worthwhile in that experience as well.
right. And so for a lot of us who haven't been able who've been fortunate enough to not have an experience like that, or maybe have had their own smaller issues, because we all do. I think
Yeah.
all of us who are on this earth, all of us as we get older, experience loss. Um, uh, but there's also a lot of wonder that is still out there, and I think that sort of we move beyond just talking about health and wellness. We start to talk just about higher levels of consciousness or
Mhm.
spirituality, religion, just sort of having a higher vibration, understanding that there is a lot of joy despite some of this suffering that all of us go through as akin to being human.
Yeah, and I can't be sick enough to make you well. I can't be poor enough to make you wealthy. So you can still have compassion and do what you can to help anybody around you, especially your loved ones. But going into that worry for them, into that sadness and despair for them is not going to bring them out of it either. So focusing on gratitude and kindness is what's going to help the most.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if we were to kind of sum things up, I mean, if you were to talk to someone and say, hey, okay, these are the things that I want to, these would be your main tips to bring gratitude into your life.
My
What
favorite thing. My favorite thing are tips. So one, as I said earlier, especially if you're dealing with somebody or you're in an experience that is frustrating to you, to think about what you appreciate about that person or that experience. I would say 98% of the time, you're going to come up with 3 things that you appreciate. And then those 2% of the times where you're just so mad that you can't think about it, you're going to see that that person or that experience is still not the norm in your life. So that's one. Another one is the gratitude journal. I also have here, and see if you can see it. It's a gratitude jar. So I just created this. And so daily or whenever, if something that I'm really grateful for, I'll just write it on a piece of paper and toss it in there. And usually what people do is at the end of the year, they open it. But if I'm having a bad day, I may go look at it and see what I was grateful for. So you can do that as well. And then one of the practices that I like is just when you're greeting other people. So often we say, hi, how are you? And then people have the opportunity to say, I'm horrible, I have a cold, I have a headache, or whatever. So I often like to say, what are you grateful for today? Now, they still have the opportunity to say nothing, but usually that sparks them to think about it. And they're like, oh, I'm grateful for something. So really, just by your own conversation, you can control the conversation into it being more positive.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. That's a kind of a challenging sort of question.
It is.
When most of us say hi, we just, are kind of like, it's just a pleasantry. But like you said, to say, how are you doing? What are you grateful for today? Kind of gives us all a little step back to.
Well, and I would encourage what are you grateful for? Because again, if most of us are hardwired into focusing on the challenges that we're going through, they're going to tell you, I'm not doing really well today. And it may not be something serious. It just may be like, my allergies are really bothering me today. We focus on what we don't like an awful lot rather than focusing on what we do like. It's a practice, and the more you practice it, the more you're even going to hear when people give you a more positive answer than when they just give you the humdrum, it's Monday, or I can't wait for Friday. It's like every day has the opportunity for you to be grateful for if you look for it.
Absolutely. And I think therein, lies the challenge, is that a lot of us, we have goals to, make our life better. But we want to strive for those goals, and those goals are good. But, our goal is also to, while we're in whatever situation that we're in right now, this is the day of our life. And, I always, and go back to what Wayne Dyer says is, this is a day of my life, and I'm going to protect that, because that's my day, and I'm not going to let anybody, ruin it. No matter what challenges come my way, how can I just make it a day that I'm happy for and worth living? No matter
and each day they may seem to be the same, but the more you start focusing on gratitude and appreciation, you're going to see the little nuances that, tomorrow I can't get tomorrow back, but so today is a little bit different. But I do also want to add, we all have moments where we don't feel good, where we're upset, where we're mad, and that is okay. I'm not expecting anyone. This is the work I do pretty much 24/7. I am not a happy, positive person 24/7. I'm pretty happy and positive the majority of the time because I've practiced for so long. But I still get mad. I still get sad. I still get scared about things and frustrated. But because I focus on how I feel, I move forward quicker than I ever used to. So when you focus on how do you want to feel today? Who do you want to show up as today? Do you want to show up as your best self? Or do you want to show up as your scared self? And both of them are there to choose from, but you get to choose which one gets the most attention.
Yeah, so let's all, make a resolution to figure out a way to show up as our best self, every day. And I think a good step with that is gratitude.
Yeah, I do too. And be gentle with yourself when your not so good self is showing up.
Yeah, yeah. So gratitude journal, a gratitude jar, a gratitude practice, are all good places to start.
And writing a list of what you're grateful for about yourself. What are the qualities about you that you are grateful for and appreciate?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a little bit of that is something, and maybe that's a good topic for an upcoming thing, I think, is self-care. I mean, you and I have talked about the importance of that. And certainly that's something that all of us,
the things we say to ourselves, we would never say to our best friend. So we really need to treat ourselves as our best friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today, Carol.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
What things do you have coming up for both Carol and Positive Focus? Again, just to recap, I know we talked a little bit about it at the beginning.
Right now, my big attention is the first weekend in May, which is 50 days away, is offering free hugs around the world to spread kindness in your community. I've been doing this for 11 years now, and we've had huggers in 6 continents, in 45 countries, and 32 states. And Archbishop he's not Archbishop anymore because he's retired. Desmond Tutu has joined us a couple of times, but it's all about letting people know that they matter and that they're seen. And I promise you, if you try it, you may just like it. I was not a hugger when I started. It was terrifying, but I did it anyway. And Sharyl has done it with me a couple times in Chicago when she was in the area.
Yes. So, if this kind of intrigues you, I encourage you to, check things out on the Positive Focus website. It seems like taking a step out there, but, if you grab someone to go with you, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the website for Positive Focus, Carol, is
positive-focus.com.
Yeah, great. Well, please check Carol out at both Positive Focus and her website for her coaching, which is carolccmiller.com.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. And us here at Balanced Physician Care, we have some, we'll tune into our website for our upcoming Facebook Lives. I know we'll be doing I will be on the radio coming up on Monday with WSOS in the morning, right around the 10:15 a.m. hour. So we've got that information up on our website, and we'll be looking at doing some more Facebook Live topics over the next couple of weeks. And maybe sometime next month, Carol, you and I can get together and chat a little bit about self-care and the importance of that in health and well-being.
That sounds perfect.
All right. So Balanced Physician Care is the name of our practice, and our website is balancedphysiciancare.com. We do a unique practice here. It's a membership-based practice. We have a couple different membership levels, and we take care of you 24/7. It's a unique sort of style of practice called direct primary care that's been growing around the country. So if you're having trouble with your current healthcare situation, whether it's no healthcare or whether you're just looking for something a little bit better, but with an affordability to it, check out us at balancedphysiciancare.com. All right. Thank you so much, Carol, for joining us again today, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Happy upcoming St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.